Greetings. My name is Jamie Davies. I'm Corporate Communications Manager at Portage College, and today I'm going to do a presentation about social networking theory and/or analysis, and it's going to be directed at maximizing Portage College's word of mouth success. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll go through the presentation. So this presentation derives from my course that I'm taking at Royal Roads University, and it's PCOM 640, Communication Policy, Politics, and Law with Dr. David Black. So we're going to begin by describing what social network theory is. It spans various disciplines, so talk about disease transmission and criminal gang networks, how the brain works with neuroscience in those networks. But we're going to concentrate more on the examination of professional networks within Portage College. So we'll be focusing on ways that Portage College, the people of Portage College, can purposely build networks to help spread the word of mouth messages about Portage College. So one of the readings was Connected by Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler. So they basically said that social network is like a group of people where you have two things, the people and the connections between them. So this presentation is on social networking to align Portage College's commitment with collaboration. And it's also going to be tied in with the goals outlined in College's Strategy 2025, which specifically aims at focusing on expanding partnerships. So hopefully these tips will help with those. There are rules about social networks that they discuss, and we're going to be just doing three in this presentation. So rule number one is that we shape our networks. So we spread emotions just like joy is contagious and the smile is contagious. We spread that through our networks. Other emotions can spread as well. So they influence the actions and thoughts that people make. So however, our connections are not limited to only those that we know directly. So there are the nodes, which are individuals, and there are the lines or the ties that are the relationship or the connection between those two nodes. So a single group of people who are very familiar with each other are said to have high transitivity. So this means that within a large network, those nodes are clustered closer together. So I'll show an illustration about that where we have a lot of dots are kind of clustered together. So that has a high transitivity. So the people, though, with low transitivity are usually those who are linked to that dense cluster, but are separate enough to make that contact with different groups of clusters within a larger network. And they can also lead to being a bridge to other and separate networks. And we'll talk about this little gentleman later. So we're going to illustrate this by connecting 100 people. You can see that the social ties can be diverse, ranging from basically fleeting relationships to lifelong relationships. They could be casual or they can be intense. They could be personable or anonymous. So the construction of networks depends on how these ties are defined. So these illustrations will highlight the concepts of contagion, which involves the flow of influences across these ties. So to learn how these networks function, understanding the rules governing connection and contagion is crucial. So these rules illuminate how ties can lead to a collective impact greater than the sum of the individual parts. So you can see that the unconnected group is not a network. They're just the dots. The bucket brigade is the simplest network, so that you can line up to put out a fire, or like I say, pass a birthday card around the office. Telephone tree is simultaneously spreading of the information. So you tell two people, like when emergency snow days, you tell two people, they tell two people, they tell two people. But reverse that, then you can kind of get a Ponzi scheme where the money flows up to the central nodes. Another one is the military squads. So you have 10 tightly interconnected squads, and they know each other so well that it builds this trust between them. So a sweet spot for organizations from the James Fowler video could be a combination of the military squads and the telephone tree. So the telephone tree is connecting of the new information and the creativity that comes in from various groups within the network, but those tightly connected groups will build that trust. So we're going to talk about contagion and embeddedness. So as you can see, this network is quite complicated. There are 4 letters in here. There's a letter A, a letter B, a letter C, and a letter D. So this highlights the flow of influence, also known as contagion, between the nodes within a network. You can see that letter C in the middle of that clusters is part of a network community. So this is what I described earlier about that tightly connected, those tightly connected nodes who know each other. They're much more connected and they're more susceptible, though, to the flow of influence within the network. So social networks develop naturally. They seek friendships. You can basically seek friendships or not. You can create large families or small families, but they will develop naturally on their own. So a network community, like I said, the part of where letter C is defined by structural connections rather than specific shared traits. Social networks develop naturally, as I said, based on the individual's tendencies to seek friendships. So Christakis and Fowler's rules 2 and 3. So our networks shapes us and our friends affect us. As the individuals of our network strengthen their connections, the number of steps to reach everyone also decreases, making us more central to that network. So rule number 3, our friends affect us. This highlights our human tendency to influence and imitate one another. So individuals typically have a small circle with whom they discuss important matters or spend their free time with. But on average, people have around 4 close social contacts. With those people who have college degrees, they have larger networks compared to those who did not finish high school. So in the context of that, we're going to talk about rural and underrepresented learners. So attracting underrepresented learners should consider the unique social networks in this area. So social ties and network positions may play a crucial role in individuals' well-being and access to opportunities. So understanding the dynamics of situational and positional inequalities within rural social networks becomes essential for designing effective strategies to address educational disparities and to promote inclusion in these communities. We're going to go on to word of mouth. Word of mouth is Portage College's top result for recruitment of students. So if Portage College were to map out our network, we'd see people who connect us with other networks. This is one of our strengths. We are people-focused. We also have seen the growth of partnerships and collaborations because of the work that leadership puts into connecting other networks. We would basically see nodes from the Portage network meeting and connecting with people to share what Portage can do for them or what other networks can do for Portage. Importance in networking and communicating the message does not end with the people we meet. If we affect them, they affect their connections, and our actions potentially impact people we have never met. And here you can see the 2018-2019 stats from how people or why people chose Portage College. So you can see the word of mouth is at the top. All right, we're going to talk about the number 3. So 3 degrees of influence rule means that everything we do or say ripples through a network by 3 degrees. So one friend is 1 degree, a friend's friend is 2 degrees, a friend's friend's friend is 3 degrees. So we mentioned the ripple effect in Portage Strategy 2025, and the 3 degrees of influence rule says that the word of mouth will fade like waves after a rock hits palm. So they call Christakis and Fowler call this intrinsic decay explanation. However, our ripple effect is not contained in our one network. Each student that graduates has their own network that they also can do the ripple effect, and so on and so forth. And now the number 6. So speaking of friends, we're going to talk about 6 degrees of separation, or 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. So this started with an experiment by Stanley Milgram in the 1960s. So he had hundreds of letters from Nebraska addressed to a businessman in Boston. So the goal was to get the letters to this guy, but they didn't know him. So they had to find friends that they think could then potentially lead them to this person. So sending a friend to a friend to a friend to lead to them. So on average, the letters did arrive within 5 to 6 steps or degrees to this person, which is thousands of miles away. So when you look at who delivered the letters, though, you'll find that there were a few who delivered the majority of the letters to this person. So these people can also be called the connectors, which we'll talk more about later. But this can also be replicated in international. They've done a lot of projects and research projects internationally, worldwide, and it has the same effect, the 6 degrees. All right, so we're going to talk about weak ties. So weak ties are acquaintances. So having weak ties in our social network is crucial. Connections with diverse social worlds, they basically span across geographical boundaries, and they activate numerous people and resources that we wouldn't otherwise be connected to. So relying on strong ties, though, poses the risk of groupthink. So when you don't get those outside connections, you get this excessive clustering in the network, in network theory. So this isolates us from connections to social worlds beyond or our immediate circles. So when it comes to finding a new job or new ideas, the social power, they basically represent that social power where the more acquaintances you have, the more powerful you are. So remember to ask your acquaintances questions such as like what they enjoy. This could help link to new ideas. And you can also talk to them about what you are interested in or a struggle you are facing at that time. And they might know someone who knows someone.
You know someone like that?
Let's just say I know a guy who knows a guy who knows another guy.
Thank you, Breaking Bad. Now we're going to get into the people. We love people at Portage. In Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point, which is a really great book, it was recommended to me by my professor to read when I talked about this potential presentation, and I couldn't put it down. It was very informative and inspiring. So he talks about 3 personalities. So the law of the few that can help spread word of mouth like an epidemic. So these 3 people are connectors, mavens, and salesmen. So connectors are people with a gift for bringing the world together. The maven accumulates knowledge, and the salesmen have the skills to persuade. All right, so the connector. Rather than actively seeking out our friends, people often become friends with those who share the same physical spaces. Connectors possess a unique ability to bring diverse individuals together, and they're characterized by their extensive network of friends and acquaintances. So Gladwell speaks of a man named Horchow who collects people the same way other people collect stamps. So if he liked someone, he would write down their name and information and send them a card in the mail. And sometimes it would be actually on their birthdays or anniversaries. And this would be just a regular acquaintance that he found that he really liked. So he had mastered the weak tie with a casual social connection. So connectors are individuals easily accessible to everyone as they navigate various worlds, subcultures, and niches. Their ability to bridge diverse environments has the effect of bringing these different spheres together. So they play a crucial role in the approval and spread of trends or social epidemics. So if they don't like it, they won't spread it. A maven is an individual who plays a key role in social epidemics by connecting people with new information. So more than experts, mavens are socially motivated individuals who are driven to solve other people's problems. often stemming from their desire to address their own emotional needs. So they're not just knowledge, but it's their inclination to share it. So their willingness to help purely for the sake of helping. This becomes a powerful means of grabbing people's attention. Mavens are effective in starting word-of-mouth epidemics, not only due to what they know, but also because of how they convey the information. They possess the ability to captivate attention, and their advice is valued similar to that of a friend. Mavens function as both teachers and students, acting as information brokers who actively share and exchange knowledge. For a social epidemic to take root, mavens play a crucial role in persuading individuals to take action. So salesmen, they are skilled communicators who understand the subtle dynamics of persuasion, recognizing that small details can have a significant impact. So nonverbal cues play a crucial role in persuasion, often overshadowing verbal communication. They utilize gestures, expressions, and movements to create a synchronized, harmonious interaction, similar to a dance. Salesmen can align speech patterns, timing, and emotional expressions to establish rapport and common ground rapidly. Salesman is aware of the power of emotional contagion, so possessing a heightened ability to express and convey emotions effectively. So they're referred to as senders. These individuals are not only skilled in expressing emotions, but also physiologically different. So with distinct facial muscle patterns that are effective in communicating emotions. So they recognize that emotional contagion operates through carriers, so those expressive individuals, and those who are particularly susceptible to emotional or expressive individuals. So we're going to go on to social epidemics. So in The Tipping Point, Gladwell speaks of Paul Revere, and that's how he kind of begins his book is the ride. So he tells the story of two riders in 1775 spreading the news that the British are coming. William Dawes and Paul Revere went different routes, spreading the same message. It showed, though, in the events that occurred after, that Revere's message was heard and acted upon better than Dawes' message. So a social epidemic's success depends on people who have a rare set of social gifts. So Revere had the gift of starting a social epidemic to stand and fight British. Revere was a connector, but his personality might have also been a salesman. He got his information from a maven, and then he spread it out to the people. So Paul Revere, of course, is famous for spreading this news that the British are coming, and they were able to stand and fight. But nobody even knows about William Dawes, actually, because he wasn't very successful, not very convincing. So network limitations. We want to emphasize the importance of maintaining a balance in your group size. So excessive growth may lead to a loss of a commonality and an intimacy of close-knit relationships. So the magic number that they speak of is 150 people. So people within a group need to know each other well, including their skills, abilities, and passions, rather than just assessing whether they're nice or not. The concept of transactive memory is basically knowing others well enough to trust their expertise in a specific domain. So the belief is that this number is wired into our brains, that we can't go over 150 people of knowing them intimately. A company, Gore Associates, so Bill Gore of Gore Associates, divides his staff when they reach the 150 number. And he's quoted in The Tipping Point, and he says, in order to be unified, in order to spread a specific company ideology to all of its employees, Gore had to break itself up into semi-autonomous small pieces. This is the paradox of the epidemic, that in order to create one contagious movement, you often have to create many small movements first. So that's the limit there. So how does Portage become a social epidemic? So social networks have the potential to enable collective achievements beyond individual capabilities. The networks act as amplifiers, magnifying the qualities and content that they are initially provided with. So social networks also need active attention and care from the individuals, the groups, and institutions to foster their positive development and impact. So to initiate this epidemic, one must strategically utilize connectors, mavens, and salesmen. The key is to find individuals or methods capable of translating the message of the innovators into a form that the broader audience can comprehend and adopt. So the law of the few asserts that connectors, mavens, and salesmen play a pivotal role in initiating word-of-mouth epidemics. So we need to focus our resources exclusively on these three groups, is what the research says. Traditionally, the belief was that the most influential voices in shaping our decisions belong to those with substantial wealth, extensive education, and residence in high-end neighborhoods, so the rich. However, connectors, mavens, and salesmen deviate from this norm. Their distinction lies not in societal status and accomplishment, but in the unique esteem they hold among their friends. People look up to them, not out of envy, but out of love. So give a bit more time to those acquaintances and find those few that can help spread our message. That's everything. Thank you so much. Any questions or comments? And I have a resources page as well. Going to stop sharing. Thanks so much.